Hello, and welcome back to the N-Squared World Domination Society. Comic-Con. It was great, wasn't it? I don't know. I slept through it, but hopefully you enjoyed it. And today, we're going to start off our recap of Comic-Con 2021 by covering Prodigy. First off, its trailer, and then some of the recap stuff on the Star Trek website. Before we start, though, I'd like to point out that I actually missed something setting up the names cheat sheet, which I absolutely do not have, and furthermore do not need. I noticed that your Tellarite is called Jankum Pog, and Murph, your little, blobby guy, is called Jankum Murph. Which is interesting. I didn't notice that before, if that's like a rank or a family thing. Because I'm pretty sure the Tellarite was adopted. Well, I know he's adopted, because he's, on the other side of the galaxy from Tellarus, but... Tellarus? Tellar Prime. Yeah, so first, I'm gonna watch the trailer. I've seen, like, half of it, because apparently the link I found wasn't the full link. So you might see my initial reaction is that, and then we're gonna go over, just like we did with Picard, and watch it. I also have realized I don't have a Prodigy LCARS, so I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna edit this, but I know I'm not going to show the full trailer throughout this video, just the relevant bits for copyright reasons. So if you haven't seen the full trailer, you might want to go pause this video and watch that. I'll link it, as well as everything else, all the resources in the description.
What will happen if they catch us?
Aw, that's an adorable voice. Here it is.
Our ticket out of here.
We've only just begun.
Oh, there's Janeway. God, nothing beats the Star Trek theme, does it?
Stars than I thought.
Ooh, fall. Hang on. We still don't have a release date. Fall 2021. So, Lower Decks ends. Well, I guess it technically is fall. Lower Decks ends October 29th. So, it could still be right after Lower Decks. I'm real upset we don't have a release date. In part because we're currently making the thumbnails for the Lower Decks reaction videos. And I really want to be able to tell my partner what show to work on next. And I don't think we're getting any Discovery news this week, so... they still don't know the release date? I guess, which is strange. So first off, the animation style, in general, it looked like it was a more painted-y... I think I've seen it as watercolor, live watercolor described. Apparently some of the Star Wars shows have that. But it explains why last time when I did the cast reveal, I thought I was actually looking at paintings and not screen caps at first. But I liked it. It looks real good, especially the space stuff. Not like the old Star Trek black, white dots, the very realistic stuff I tend to like. But it's very beautiful. I like the Federation, the panels, like ops and stuff inside the Federation ship. It all looked visually very, very nice. I also noticed, I don't know if maybe they're still working on it a bit, but Pog and Murph, the Tellarite and Blobby guy, they looked a bit off in the trailer, almost not quite as finished or detailed. It may have just been getting used to a new animation style, or like it was a bad scene, or as I said, they are still working on the character models a little bit. I'll actually have to compare it to the screenshots I have on my definitely non-existent character cheat sheet over there. They also do seem to be taking the show in a bit of a different direction to what I expected. I think I described a fair amount before what I'd do with Prodigy, but the main characters seem generally a bit more agreeable or friendly with each other than I might originally thought. Gwen and Dal, I have to look around the tripod to see that name. I can't tell, they could be like a thrust together thing, but it almost felt a bit like a sibling relationship, like where they were already somewhat close. And so it's definitely a group that'll understand that sort of trust and cooperation more than I thought. And it's not really introducing Starfleet to people through that lens. I'm going to save more about that till after the trailer, and I think I'm just going to get into then the more frame-by-frame analysis here.
No one shall escape.
So, we know... Uh-oh. Uh, let me find a good pack. We know, I think, that they were on some sort of mining or salvage facility that people were being reclaimed from, or rather, they were escaping from. The robots, and like the general aesthetic, I noticed a few times.
Getting out
I don't think it is a... Oh, come on.
of here.
Yeah, there's one, and the robot was another. It felt very, oh god, what's it called? The Synthetic Federation. I don't think it has a name, but the people from Picard that everyone tried to summon, um, it had a very that aesthetic with, like, the tentacle robots and whatever. I don't think it's intentional at all. I think someone probably should have picked up on it if it was intentional, but I thought that was interesting.
You're the only one who still thinks.
I've just seen, in this, you can actually make out it's a Medusan inside Zero's, little suit. You probably shouldn't be able to actually see them, without going insane. Spock... I think Spock had the special glasses he could use because he was a Vulcan. Citation needed. I'll probably look that up and put a thing here if it's wrong. But, very scrappy put together, which I like from the stuff around. I also like the voice. I think I commented before, just like a very British Medusan just running around the galaxy. But that looks quite nice, kind of the Medusan in there. Be nice if there was some explanation of why we could actually see the Medusan, but, you know, that's for the actual show. I've also just noticed, I think this is the Federation ship. It almost looks like you've got a window up here, because it's modern Trek, and then you've got Ops and, Helm is the other one. Yeah, here you get a bit more of that robot-y. A lot of drones and robots in here, which is interesting for the Delta Quadrant. Usually rather underdeveloped. As a lot of people point out, we saw, you know, if the camera lens is the Delta Quadrant, your screen right now, we saw exactly a line that looks like that and nothing else. So maybe we're a bit farther from Borg space or something, so it's a bit more developed. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, the Tellurite, just comparing it, it's annoying it goes a bit dark when I pause it, but it doesn't look quite as detailed as, I'll just bring it up here. Like, the skin doesn't look as well defined. They could have changed the character a bit. It doesn't look like he has as much facial hair, which, as I understand it, is one of the last things that happens, or one of the later things that happens when you're designing a character, because it's very complicated and flowy. Not designing a character, sorry, but actually building them for an animation. Yeah, compared to the other characters, he looks kind of more flat CG, like he doesn't have that paint aspect. It doesn't look like he has the Tellurite marks quite that he should. And Murph is interesting, because he's also almost a little different art style. I think it might just be because he's real glossy and stuff. Like a wet, glossy texture. I can't tell if it's finished or not, but especially... Actually, that's not the Tellurite, that's Rock Talk. Especially next to Rock Talk, it does look a bit different and weird. I've also just seen... I'm gonna have to move my mic for this. You've got a reflection in his eyes of what looks like the Federation ship. You can't quite make any detail out, but I think that's technically a view with a ship.
I tried to save you, and now we can save each other.
And that's the line that made it seem a bit more like these are people with more of a history than, like, strangers forced together, don't really trust each other, that sort of thing I was going on about earlier. Okay, here we go. This is interesting. I've actually just noticed this is the inside of the ship. I thought it might be the outside of the ship. Very Orville, it reminds me of the white, curvy... I can see clearly, though, you've got the Federation. Almost looks like you might have a tactical, like, you know, Worf's wooden tactical thing back here. But that raised platform, like, the captain stuff would be here. As I mentioned before, Ops and Helm, you can see up there. In more of a Discovery-looking style, I think there's a better view that might be L-cars, I can't quite tell. A completely glass ceiling, which, as much as I hate the window as a view screen, that's a very interesting... I see why you do it. You can do a lot of beautiful animation. It makes sense. If it's some sort of, like, futuristic blackout windows, basically, I'd quite like that. I've just realized it's not going to be, because then you can't get the cool shots of looking in on the ship. And, like, with all the characters in there. But, visually I like it. It's a Starfleet ship, and so the practicalities of it, I'm not 100% sure, but it's an interesting idea. I don't believe we've ever seen it before. Most of the ships, you know, they have their skylight, but a proper, essentially, observation deck. Actually, I've just realized, if this is a science vessel, I love it, because your science vessel, you're not going to take that into battle. You're going to look around, you're going to want to do science. So if that's the kind of ship this is, like Voyager, a long-ranged, long-term exploration vessel, I love it. Oh, here. That's actually an even better view. Almost reminds me of an old Enterprise D concept, where you had, like, basically everyone was around a sofa or something, was the bridge. But you can clearly see... I can't tell if that's Captain or not, because it's at an angle, but we don't see another ship. Looks like you've got Rock Talk up at helm. Ops. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure that's Ops. Or at least that's where Data used to sit. Looks like Dal might be being set up as the captainy. I think Dal and Gwen are going to be the captain first officer comparisons. I like this tech stuff going on down here. Just a little bit of Greeblies on the side of the ship. And I actually really like this aesthetic. I wasn't too sure. With 5 years after Voyager, I thought it might have been pushing things a little bit. But if I just pull up, actually, a ship that I'm often to forget about. Here we go. If we bring up the Prometheus bridge, it's actually got that similar vibe of the more, of course, it's different, but it's Starfleet going into that more clinical, curvy, white, somewhat minimalistic, but, again, very Orville. I like the Orville's aesthetic, and I think aesthetically the Orville fits in Star Trek fairly nice off the top of my head, but looking at the two images, if you told me, you know, Voyager, an Intrepid class, became this, in 5 years became this for a hyper-advanced ship, I'll get to that when we get the outside. Yeah, I'd buy that. I believe it. I know it's a derelict vessel, so a lot of people were thinking it'd be made around or even a bit before Voyager, but this looks brand spanking new, straight off the assembly line. Here it is. My first reaction was, what the heck is... Oh my god, I've just seen. It actually is, like a blackout window. There you go. But anyway, my first reaction was something like, oh my god, what is that Kelvin-verse, like, awful shit? And then, basically, immediately, I started realizing, actually, it's a pretty natural blend of a lot of ships. The nacelles are very Kelvin-verse. Franklin... Actually, hang on. Here's the Eagle Moss Showcase part of the video. The nacelles are quite clearly... I think that's the wrong way around. They're quite clearly the Kelvin Enterprise. Look. Very obvious diveration? Very obviously based off that is the important part. Which isn't bad in itself. I'm generally not... I prefer the Prime style to the Kelvin style nacelles, but the Zhang He is going to get it in like 15 or so years from now. So you can put it in Alpha Canon at this, you know, it's an open section in Starship design. You've got to end in the Zhang He, and you've got to start it sort of Voyager looking, Prometheus, Equinox looking, but you're pretty much free to do a lot. And speaking of those three ships, this is essentially a Voyager meets Prometheus meets Equinox with Janeway's ablative hull. If we look at the timeline, which I prepared earlier, this is Voyager Endgame. This right here, 2383, is Prodigy, so 3 years after Lower Decks. And Lower Decks will probably catch up to it eventually. And then over here is the Zhang He. Over here is Voyager returning to Earth in the alternate timeline, so that's where we actually would have had a blade of armor by. Theoretically, it could have been invented anywhere between, like, here and here. But, either way, it's got that general style. I'm not 100% sure on it. Looking at it a bit more, it actually reminds me of some of the Season 3 Discovery ships. But, I think it'll probably grow on me. I've just seen, actually, NCC 76884. I don't want to hear anyone say the word German tank problem in the comments, but looking at Voyager 74656, and I forgot to look up, actually, the Cerritos. 75567. So yeah, this is a brand spanking new ship. Older than Voyager. It's going to be older than the Cerritos, which I think was actually a bit of an older ship when we see it in Lower Decks. But registry-wise, I think it's fit to just about be launched around the time Prodigy starts. Because I think what I see in this ship is a sort of more slipstream design. What I see is Starfleet wants to go back to the Delta Quadrant in a controlled manner. Get there and be able to come back, which makes sense. And I see this as their sort of experiment of, essentially their Dauntless of, can we get it there? Something goes wrong. Maybe they actually have Holo Janeway. This could be why they have Janeway there, is so they can send a hologram and not risk any crew. You could question the holographic rights in that problem, but I think that's what they're going for, is some sort of advanced ship. It wasn't Voyager, like, it wasn't Caretaker to the Delta Quadrant. It was an experiment. They went, Starfleet lost contact with it, abandoned the project. Like, this is why they don't really see it in Picard. Like, no one really mentions the Delta Quadrant. Not even Discovery did. Although, that makes sense there. But yeah, I could easily see the Pathfinder project essentially becoming this ship project, which has a name. The USS Protostar, I think, looking at that, which, yeah, I could very easily see. This is your experimental ship that we've sent to the Delta Quadrant and landed on Dilithium planet, maybe? Anyway, I think I've gotten diverged head. You take Voyager, right? Squeeze it down a bit, maybe buff out the back. You then throw in the Equinox's general shapes, you push the nacelles up, you bump up the bridge a bit more. You don't have the deflector dish hole down there. In fact, yeah, that's the Equinox, not the Rhode Island. And then, you take that ship, you take the Prometheus, you bump up the bridge, you add that window. For once, I really like the window, which is blasphemy. And then, essentially, you're done. You add your plating, which could be, like, special plating, so it could slipstream to the Delta Quadrant or something. You add your uniqueness, those bumps. I really like these protected little bumps, just visually. I'm looking forward to the Eagle Moss ship of this. I like the lighting. These, are on one of these ships. Was it Voyager? Oh yeah, that's what they remind me of. Like the windows, they match the, I'll call it the cockpit window as well. So this is probably like a communal mess hall or something, and maybe one over there on that side. But I really like the Protostar. NX! I've just seen it's an NX. It is an experimental vessel going out to the Delta Quadrant. I'm finally making theories and confirming them. And you can also see it's a smaller vessel from this little landing pad down here. Windows make it seem bigger than I think it is, but then again, there's your bridge. I love it. I love the Protostar. Very good job. It's grown on me faster than the Cerritos, with my very negative initial reaction. But I think this is a proper... It's not quite a classic Star Trek design, because you can see the modern JJ influences. But if this is what the Prometheus looked like, I think it would be as fondly remembered as the Prometheus, which is high praise, but I really like it. Big news, this is a turbo lift that isn't a TARDIS. I've also realized it might not be the Protostar's turbo lift because it's real tall, and I'm not sure the Protostar is that tall. Probably just visual effects, because that looks... I really like this glass, assuming this is the Protostar, this glass and framework style they're going for. As much as I saw Orville in a lot of the things, I think it's a new, unique Star Trek style, and I really like it. It's a believable evolution, and I think I can even see it shooting way ahead into the 32nd century with a lot of what we saw over there in Discovery. Here's a good view of the back. Completely obliterated by a pause button. But yeah, more JJE type nacelles. Can't quite make out if there's a shuttle bay or something. I might try and get a better picture of this later. Hey Paramount, your video player's awful and I've gone to YouTube, which is buffering. I don't need the middle of the screen. Yes, that's L-Cars. I'm probably gonna get a bit closer to the mic. It's almost T-Cars, actually. The temporal L-Cars, which, you know, it has to become eventually. I can see the blue in kind of Picard becomes a lot more, and I think Nemesis was a bit more bluey purple. But yeah, I always like seeing the L-Car style. A bit different, but that's what you'd expect from some sort of quantum thing. If this really is a time ship of some kind, then props to them for getting the T-Car style, but I don't think it is. You've also got a little display down at the bottom I didn't see before. I guess you'll probably have someone in engineering, but you need a place for like all 6 of the characters to stand if they're on the bridge. So 1, 2, 3, captain's chair, let's say a first officer's chair, and maybe a central one, if it's like 1, 2, 3, kind of like the Enterprise D. But yeah, I like it still. And then, now that we're on YouTube, whoops, we can see... Yeah, it's a bit too dark to see anything, but that profile is very familiar. I don't think it's any one ship in reality. I think it's what I was talking about. It's an amalgamation of Star Trek ships, which gives the Star Trek feel, which is perfect. That's what a lot of ships are missing, in my opinion, in the modern day. I love Discovery's Season 3's new direction, because it's so late in the timeline. But for the other shows, not so much Lower Decks, but even then, I can't think of a design that, like in the classic days, it feels like an amalgamation of a lot of things, so it looks familiar, even though you've never seen it before. And I think that's what I'm getting from the Protostar, is it looks so familiar, like a Star Trek ship I know and love, because it's the Dauntless's profile, but it's the almost NX's pylons and that sort of proportion. It's longer, like a Constitution or something like that. It's just... And of course, I mentioned the Intrepid, the Equinox, the Prometheus. One of those was a class, the others weren't. But it's just that perfect... It's all the Star Trek elements in a brand new design. And I love it. That is enough of the trailer, though, because now we've got this little article. It's Star Trek and Paramount's recap of their own conference panel. So it's got some stuff on Lower Decks as well. But we know here before, Prodigy may be the younger Star Trek sibling, but don't overestimate it. So they are going for those big punches. You know, it's the little brother or the little sister, so, you know, I lowered Prodigy isn't non-binary. Just gonna let that one linger. I'll always call you out on that. And yeah, it's geared towards kids, but intended for everybody. I'll definitely save that quote when the FCC eventually comes after me for all of my Prodigy reaction videos. That's gonna be a hard decision. Is this video made for kids? But yeah, we knew this before. Yeah, they're making it a great entry point for the series, which makes sense when you're, you know, you're geared to kids who are likely never have gonna see another Star Trek because they're so young. And they never really view it from the place of it's for kids, which is great. It's what you should do for a kid show. All the best kid shows are not geared towards kids. That, yeah, I think people know what I mean, but that's, I'm not saying it great. Where all the best kid shows like Steven Universe, they nowadays they're tackling very adult topics, and they're great. They're amazing. Centers on a group of rebellious kids, we know that. Despite her appearances, Rock Talk is a cute little 8-year-old girl. Yes. Yes, she is. That was an adorable voice that I did not expect. I love they made, like, the big, honking character just an 8-year-old girl. Yeah, adorable. It's really fun playing Rock Talk because I get to, you know, people, they think it's this big rock monster, but really it's just this cute little 8-year-old girl. So it's been really fun because I get to just be myself. That's amazing. Riley, last name. I have 4 minutes left on my camera's battery. I'm going to be right back. Anyway, yeah, Riley, last name, is just, like, I can't remember how young she is. She's real young. Might even be 8 or 9, I don't remember. But, yeah, I think it's just fun watching her play. Just a cute little 8-year-old girl who's a giant rock monster, as she put it. Yeah, Zero, I thought, I remembered that. They're genderless, not corporeal entity, they're a Medusan. Yeah, if anyone ever saw them, they would go mad. Unless, apparently, they see them through the, glass. Murph is sort of, it's this blob. It's this sentient blob that knows of, like, Rock Talk's familiar. Oh, it's kind of like Rock Talk's familiar. Okay, so it's not, Pog that they're kind of with, but Rock Talk. A lieutenant or a sidekick. Lieutenant Blob, report to the ready room. You understand what's going on, but you don't always understand what Murph is saying, and that, I think, is going to evolve as the series evolves. That's interesting. I kind of like that's a character. He might have a Groot thing, where maybe at the end they'll say, like, an actual thing that isn't the I am Groot equivalent, or, like, blobby noises. But that's a fun character, like the cute 8-year-old girl who's a rock monster, and then this, like, blob familiar guy, who I hope, looking at it, always has this massive grin on their face. Janeway's back, we knew that. Janeway is back. It's interesting because a lot of people complain about Synth Picard not being the same person, but I don't see anyone complaining or even mentioning that, like, Hollow Janeway is very much not Janeway, and I don't have a problem with Synth Picard not being the same person. Our original Picard died, but Synth Picard is the original Picard as much as original Picard, because they have exactly the same experiences throughout the entirety of original Picard's lifetime. It's Doctor Who's The Human Flesh, I think it's called, The Almost People, that two-parter. Where it's just a very simple, there's no even question to it. But this is not Janeway. Yes, it's our Janeway, and that they have all the knowledge and experience, presumably, of our Janeway. But, there's then a point somewhere where they're gonna split off. And this is our Janeway doing something in the Alpha Quadrant, and then this is Hollow Janeway, as we see here. Like, you know, they're different people. And even then, it's, unless they do, like, an actual mind scan of Janeway, the holograms we see before, like the EMH and Bashir is an EMH, they don't scan the person, they interview them, put like all the historical records in logs into the hologram, and then it's a simulation of the person who doesn't so much have memories of the event. Well, they don't have any memories of the events, they just know what happened and believes it happens to them. And that's weird. Like, this isn't Captain Janeway. This is Holo Captain Janeway, who is still a full person with rights and beliefs and emotions, and is just as much of an individual as Janeway, or the EMH, or any character in Star Trek. But they're a different character. And I don't mind that. But what I mind is everyone just being like, oh, yeah, it's Janeway. And then we start getting into the lower decks. And the one final note is Prodigy is the interesting show for me because I've said before on this channel that there are two shows which I would consider perfect. Steven Universe and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And that's changed because now I've seen Steven Universe Future. And so Steven Universe is a franchise, is the best show, period. It beats Deep Space Nine. So you could imagine that Prodigy, a kids show Star Trek, has the potential to be Steven Universe but Star Trek, which would be the best show. It could tackle a lot of the stuff Steven Universe does, but differently, and it will do the Star Trek thing for things that Star Trek has never done. Like, Star Trek does a lot of social and political issues, but it's never really... It'll cover personal issues, but not so much the kind of stuff that Steven Universe was doing. And you could imagine that the best show in the universe and the other perfect show, essentially, is Deep Space Nine of Star Trek. Saying that Prodigy has the potential to be the best show ever made, I am going to be disappointed by Prodigy. I know I will be disappointed, no matter how much I like it. I've actually been trying to hype myself down for Prodigy, because it won't be as good as Steven Universe, because literally nothing is. But at the same time, it's very much a show I could enjoy, it very much be my show. And even if it's not the best show in the universe, it could do so much that I'm gonna like. And so it's this weird show that I know I'm going to like, and I know I'm going to be disappointed by. I'm going to be very disappointed if it's just another kid's show. I don't think it'll be because of the people doing it. Never seen Troll Hunters, but I did watch some Ninjago as a kid, and you know, Memory of a Child, but it wasn't, like, revolutionary or anything, but there was definitely underlying plot, and a lot of stuff I remember not really getting at at the time, but recognizing it was a bit more than usual. But still, I'm excited, I'm hopeful. My guess would be, if it doesn't come out the week after Lower Decks, it's gonna be pretty close, because fall. You've got November. The first day of winter is not on my calendar, but it is December something. Yeah, it's probably gonna come out that October, November. We still have the oddity that Prodigy and Discovery are supposed to come out this year, but assuming both are going to be at least 10 episodes, 10 episodes after Lower Decks ends, sorry, 10 weeks after Lower Decks ends, is the 31st of December, which is technically 2021, but that's cutting it really fine. And there could be overlap, but for a streaming service, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. And for me, that would be kind of hard to keep up on reaction videos for. But anyway, I think that's going to be all for me. It'll just be rambling from here on out. But I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for the Lower Decks reactions video, which should come out within a day. It's really my upload speed is the limiting factor here. And I hope you enjoyed, and I can't wait to see you for our proper Prodigy, hopefully Lower Decks, but Prodigy reaction videos as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.